TRC EDC back again with another knife video. This is the ZT-0562 CF carbon fiber. So this is a very classic knife. It is based on the Hinderer design of the Hinderer XM-18. So let's start with some size comparisons with some Hinderer XM-18s. This is the vintage Bowie. And so this is Gen 4, this is Gen 6, but they're both XM-18s. You can see it's a very similar knife to the XM-18, but there are some differences, some key differences that have been covered extensively by some other channels, but I'll go ahead and do that. First of all is that you may know the Hinderers have different blade shapes. There's the Bowie grind, the Skinner grind, the slicer grind. ZT chose the slicer grind as their 0562 standard blade. So let's talk about some of the other differences. Some of the other differences are the aggressiveness of the hook that's on the flipper tab. You can see those. And another difference is the horns here. So you have horns here where the thumb studs act as the stop pins, and you have no horns here, or very small horns here on that one. Also, the thumb studs, obviously, you can see are different. The pivots are different. The general hardware is different, and the pocket clips are different. This is a regular pocket clip. This is a deep carry pocket clip. Okay, and you've also got the lock bar stabilizer here under the clip, as opposed to here, which is a little bit different location. So, as you can see, there's several differences with the 0562, but it is an evolution, or not an evolution, but it's based originally on the XM-18 design. All right, so let's get a little bit of size comparisons. So here's the Ontario Rat 1, Benchmade Super Freak, Paramilitary 2, Para 3. As you can see, it's a good, it's about the size of the PM2. It's a good EDC size. Let's get a couple more comparisons. Benchmade 940, Benchmade Griptilian, and Spyderco Para. There you go. I think that just about does it. So, all right, what's good about this knife? So what's good about this knife is, despite this blade being so damn tall, this slicer grind is actually a lot, I didn't give it credit as being that slicey until I started using it. And then I was like, well, okay, it's actually kind of slicey. I think that's because the stock starts here at this thickness. And again, you can see it comes out at the tip there to give some reinforcement at the tip. But it starts going, from this high grind all the way down to here. So I don't know this for sure, but it feels like, it may be a little bit of a thicker edge here, and then it thins out toward the tip, which is an interesting design because you start to cut in it here, and as you draw across, it just gets easier to slice, which is, sort of interesting how they design that. So that's some of the good. Another good is the carbon fiber here feels great. It feels excellent. They did a great job with carbon fiber. The titanium here also feels great. And the general fit and finish is your ZT fit and finish. It's excellent fit and finish. You guys may know that the warranty for ZT and Kershaw, which is owned by Kai, so their warranty is known for being a pretty good warranty, so that's another good thing there. All right. So what's the best thing about this? Well, the best thing about this is the action. It's on bearings, and it's so smooth. I mean, before I got some of the Gen 6 Hinderers, and and some of the Wii knives that I have, this was by far the smoothest knife that I had. It's not quite as smooth as this, but this has a really heavy blade. This is the Berg Blades Iron Wolf, and this just falls and drops shut. But you can, and same thing with another big blade over here on bearings. So it's not quite to that level, but it's one of the best at this size of just smooth feeling actions that you can get. It's really quite satisfying. And you have to push it past like the reverse detent here. There's a little bit of a reverse detent. You see it like breaks that detent, and then all of a sudden it drops shut, and it's got the other detent here. Another good thing in the design here is the thumb studs here as the stop pins. That works excellently. It gives a lot of stability. There's zero blade play whatsoever. It feels rock solid, and that's really excellent. The pocket clip is extremely well designed. It is you can't even feel it. It's not a hot spot at all, and it gives you a really nice deep carry that actually goes above where the knife is, so it really hides very well in your pocket. It could be a little bit shorter, but then again, you have the lock bar relief here, and that's probably why they kept it a little bit longer. So that's really the good. What's bad about this knife? Well, what's bad about it, I think the main things are, I don't love the feel of this horn. It's actually kind of sharp. I don't know why they made it so sharp, especially when the original design is based off of wasn't that way. So that's one of the things that I don't love. Also, the thumb studs are notoriously hard to flick. They're not really active thumb studs. You can flick them. If you have to be very careful not to put any pressure whatsoever on the lock bar. I usually put my finger in the lock bar relief in order to make sure that's happening, and then I give it a little flick. And now that this is really well broken in, it does work, but it took a while for this to break in like that. I mean, it was like pushing against, like you were fighting against metal to get it open before. And now it goes, but it's not really meant to be deployed that way. So when you're thinking about how you're going to deploy this knife, it's really just the flipper tab for the most part. Another thing is on Hinderers, for example, you can buy them with choil or with no choil. Most of them come with a choil, I believe. And I was originally of the school of thought that why would you have a choil? What's the point of it? Why do we even... Why bother? Because you get so much more blade length if you just eliminate the choil. Well, there's really two reasons. One, it gives you a sharpening choil, so it makes it much easier to sharpen. And once you get more prolific with sharpening, you'll really understand that. The other real reason is when you go like this, and put your finger in the choil, you really feel like you have ultimate control of the knife. And if you want to do any detailed work on whatever you're cutting, you really need to be in that choil and on top of that blade. So sometimes when I'm here with the Hinderer, I'll sort of put my finger on here. It's a bad idea, but I'll put my finger on the flipper tab and just, use that and do the detailed work. But I could slip off and cut my finger on here. It's really not safe to do that. Don't try this at home type of thing. The lack of a choil, although it's personal preference, it is a negative for me. So that's just something to be aware of. The blade on this is 20 CV. 20 CV is one of the best, if not the best blade steel out there, so no complaints on that. That's just one of the things to be aware of as well. The hardware on this is, I don't love the hardware on this, like the pivot. It's not so interesting to me. I know that some people may enjoy it, but it just looks kind of plain to me. It is Torx hardware, so that's good. But the pivot just looks kind of plain. I think they could have come up with a better pivot. I really, it's sad when a regular flathead screwdriver to me is more attractive than the design pivot. And of course the spanner bit I think is really, really attractive. Even if it's a little bit of a pain, it's not that much of a pain. You can open it with a bunch of different things. You don't even need a spanner bit. But we'll get to that in a different video. In any event, so anything else bad about this knife? Well, ZTs are a little pricey. The price on this is, I think it's around $260-ish. They might be a little cheaper now. The 0562 Ti came out, the full titanium version of this. If I was rebuying this knife now, I probably would go for the full Ti. It wasn't available when I bought this originally. And I may at some point, because I did sell this knife actually. I sold it with the thought that I want another knife, and that at some point I would probably go out and get the Ti version of this. So that's why I'm selling it. But it's not because I don't like the knife. I really do like it. But I feel like ultimately I want the tie version, and this became expendable for that reason. I can live without it for a little while because I got some XM-18s. So that's ultimately the reason I'm selling this. And but other than that, yeah, the ergonomics are great, just like all Hinderers, and well, not all Hinderers, all XM-18s. Yeah, I can definitely recommend this knife. They don't hold their value that well in the secondary market. The full tie ones do for some reason, but I don't know what is going on. But the carbon fiber ones I've seen all over the place, from like $130 all the way up to $200 on the secondary market. And guys, if you can find one at $130, $140, $150, that's a bargain. Go buy it, because you know this is a $260 knife. So you know, I tell my viewers all the time, if you're buying a full tie one, you may as well buy a new one, because the new ones are holding their value. Or the tie ones are holding their value, but these aren't holding their value. And so don't buy the new one. Don't buy this new. Guys, do not buy this new. Go out, look on the secondary market for it, and you know, once you're on the secondary market, you can find it for, you know, do searches. You'll find it for $150, maybe less, and that's when you should buy it. So that's all I have to say about that. Thanks again for watching. I highly recommend this knife if you can get it at one of those value prices. And even if you can't, even if you buy it new, I still recommend it. There's just other stuff out now that I think I would buy instead of it if I had the choice. So that's my recommendation. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, like and comment on this video. Thank you so much for watching.